always believed that the greatest treasures in life were not the things you could hold in your hands, but the memories you carried in your heart. I spent my years building a home filled with laughter, love, and the kind of warmth that lingers long after the last guest has left. My house was never the biggest on the block, but it was always open to anyone who needed a meal, a story, or a place to rest. I raised my children with the hope that they would carry those values forward, and when my grandson Marcus was born, I thought I saw a spark of that same kindness in his eyes. But time has a way of changing people, and sometimes, the ones you love most are the ones who surprise you the most. Marcus was always a clever boy, quick with a joke, sharp with numbers, and charming in a way that made people want to trust him. As he grew older, I watched him navigate the world with a confidence I admired, but I also saw the shadows that sometimes flickered behind his smile. He was ambitious, always looking for the next opportunity, the next big thing. I told myself it was just youthful energy, that he would settle down and find his way. I never imagined that his ambition would one day turn against me. It started with small things. A missing 20 from my purse, a forgotten errand, a lie about where he'd been. I brushed it off as teenage rebellion, the kind of thing every family goes through. But as the years passed, the small things grew into bigger things. Marcus dropped out of college, saying he wanted to start his own business. He borrowed money from his mother, from me, from anyone who would listen, always promising to pay it back. The money never returned, and the promises grew thinner each time. Still, I loved him. I wanted to believe in him. I wanted to believe that the boy who used to sit on my lap and beg for one more bedtime story was still in there somewhere. I tried to help, to guide him, to remind him of the values I had tried so hard to instill. But Marcus was always one step ahead, always looking for the shortcut, the easy way out. The real trouble began after my daughter, his mother, passed away. It was a sudden illness, the kind that sweeps in like a storm and leaves you gasping for air. I was devastated, and so was Marcus, or so I thought. He moved in with me, saying he wanted to help, to keep me company in my grief. First, I was grateful. The house felt less empty with him around, and I cherished the chance to reconnect. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. He started asking questions about my finances, innocent at first, or so they seemed. "Grandma, do you have enough for groceries? Are you sure your pension is coming in on time? Maybe I should help you with your bills, just to make sure nothing gets missed." I appreciated the concern, but something in his tone made me uneasy. I brushed it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. Then one afternoon, I came home from the market to find Marcus in my study, rifling through my desk drawers. He jumped when he saw me, his face flushing with guilt. "I was just looking for a pen," he stammered, but I could see the stack of bank statements in his hand. I didn't say anything. I just watched him, my heart heavy with suspicion. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, listening to the creaks and sighs of the old house, wondering when things had changed. I thought about the stories I used to tell Marcus, the lessons I tried to teach him about honesty and trust. I wondered if any of it had stuck. The next morning I decided to take action. I called my lawyer, Mrs. Evans, a woman I had known for decades. She listened patiently as I explained my concerns, her voice calm and reassuring. "You're right to be cautious," she said. "It's always better to be prepared." We spent the next few weeks reviewing my accounts, updating my will, and putting safeguards in place. I added extra security to my online banking, changed the locks on my study, and made sure that all my important documents were stored in a safe deposit box at the bank. I didn't tell Marcus about any of it. I wanted to believe he would never do anything to hurt me, but I couldn't ignore the warning signs any longer. It wasn't long before Marcus's true intentions became clear. One afternoon I received a call from the bank. Someone had tried to access my account using my personal information. The teller recognized my voice and called to confirm the transaction. My heart pounded as I realized what had happened. I confronted Marcus that evening, my hands shaking as I held out the bank statement. "Why, Marcus?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you do this?" He looked at me, his eyes cold and hard. "You don't need all that money, Grandma. You're just sitting on it. I could use it to start over, to build something real. Why shouldn't I have it?" I stared at him, stunned by the entitlement in his voice. The boy I had loved, the boy I had raised, was gone. In his place was a stranger, someone I barely recognized. That night I made a decision. I would not let Marcus take from me what I had spent a lifetime building. I would protect my legacy not just for myself, but for the memory of my daughter, for the family I had loved and lost. I would show Marcus that some things cannot be stolen, that true inheritance is earned, not taken. The days that followed were some of the hardest I'd ever known. There's a particular kind of heartbreak that comes from realizing someone you love is willing to betray you for money. I moved through the house in a daze, haunted by memories of Marcus as a child, his laughter echoing down the hallway, his small hand in mine as we walked to the park, the way he used to beg for just one more story before bed. Now those memories felt like ghosts, reminders of a time when love seemed simple and unconditional. Marcus, for his part, acted as if nothing had happened. He still made coffee in the mornings, still watched television in the evenings, still called me grandma, with that same easy smile. But I saw the way his eyes darted to my purse when I set it down, the way he lingered near my study door, the way he bristled when I mentioned my lawyer. The trust between us had been shattered, replaced by a wary truce that neither of us acknowledged. I tried to talk to him, to reach the boy I once knew. "Marcus, you don't have to do this," I said one evening as we sat on the porch, the sun setting behind the trees. "There's still time to make things right." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "You don't understand, Grandma. I've got nothing. No job, no future. You have everything. Why can't you just help me?" I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him see that love isn't measured in dollars and cents. But I knew it was useless. The boy I raised was gone, replaced by a man who saw me as nothing more than an obstacle. I confided in Mrs. Evans, my lawyer, more than once during those weeks. She was a steady presence, her advice always practical and clear. "You've done everything right," she assured me. "You've protected your assets, updated your will, and documented everything. If Marcus tries anything else, you'll be ready." But I didn't want to be ready. I wanted my grandson back. I wanted the family I had worked so hard to build. I wanted to believe that love could fix what had been broken. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. It was from the county courthouse, a notice that someone had filed a petition to declare me mentally incompetent. My hand shook as I read the words, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew without a doubt that Marcus was behind it. He was trying to have me declared unfit so he could gain control of my estate. I called Mrs. Evans immediately, my voice trembling. "He's trying to take everything," I whispered. "He wants to put me in a home." She was calm as always. "Don't worry, we'll fight this. You're of sound mind, and we have all the documentation to prove it. But you need to be careful, Mrs. Carter. Marcus is desperate." Desperate. The word echoed in my mind as I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the letter. I thought about all the times I had bailed Marcus out of trouble, all the times I had given him the benefit of the doubt. I realized with a heavy heart that I couldn't save him from himself. The court date was set for 2 weeks later. In the days leading up to it, I gathered every piece of evidence I could find, medical records, bank statements, letters from friends and neighbors attesting to my mental clarity. Mrs. Evans helped me prepare, walking me through every possible scenario. I felt like a soldier preparing for battle, my nerves stretched thin. Marcus avoided me during those days, staying out late and coming home only when he thought I was asleep. I heard him on the phone, his voice low and urgent, making plans I couldn't quite decipher. I wondered if he felt any guilt, any shame for what he was doing. I wondered if he remembered the woman who had raised him, who had loved him unconditionally. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully, choosing a blue dress that my daughter had once said brought out the color in my eyes. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who had weathered storms before, a woman who refused to be broken. Mrs. Evans picked me up and drove me to the courthouse, her presence a comfort. The hearing was brief. The judge listened as Mrs. Evans presented our evidence, as my doctor testified to my mental fitness, as neighbors and friends spoke on my behalf. Marcus sat across the room, his eyes fixed on the floor, his jaw clenched. When it was his turn to speak, he stammered, unable to look me in the eye. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. I was declared fully competent, and Marcus's petition was dismissed. Relief washed over me, but it was tinged with sadness. I had won, but at what cost? My grandson had tried to steal my life, my home, my dignity. The victory felt hollow. After the hearing, Marcus disappeared for several days. I didn't know where he went, and I tried not to worry. I focused on rebuilding my life, on finding joy in small things, the scent of fresh bread baking in the oven, the laughter of children playing outside, the comfort of a good book. I reminded myself that I was strong, that I had survived worse. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't over. Marcus was still out there, still desperate, still looking for a way in. I knew I had to stay vigilant to protect what was mine. But I also knew that, deep down, I still loved him. I still hoped that one day he would find his way back. The days after the hearing were quiet, almost eerily so. I found myself listening for Marcus's footsteps in the hallway, the sound of his laughter drifting from the living room, the familiar clatter of his keys on the kitchen counter. But the house was silent, filled only with the ticking of the old grandfather clock and the distant hum of traffic outside. I tried to fill the emptiness with routine, watering the garden, baking bread, calling old friends for long, meandering conversations. But no matter how busy I kept myself, I couldn't escape the ache of loss. I wondered where Marcus had gone, what he was doing, if he was safe. I worried about him despite everything. That's the thing about love, it doesn't just disappear, even when it's bruised and battered. I thought about calling him, but every time I picked up the phone I hesitated. What would I say? How could I reach a boy who had chosen greed over family? One afternoon, as I was tending to my roses, I heard a car pull into the driveway. My heart leapt, hope and dread warring inside me. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked to the front door, peering through the window. It wasn't Marcus. It was Mrs. Evans, my lawyer, holding a thick envelope in her hand. She smiled warmly as I let her in. "I thought you might want to go over a few things," she said, settling at the kitchen table. "Now that the hearing is behind us, it's a good time to review your estate plan." I nodded, grateful for her presence. We spent the next hour going through documents, updating beneficiaries, and making sure every detail was in order. Mrs. Evans was thorough, patient, and kind. She never made me feel foolish for asking questions or for wanting to protect what I had worked so hard to build. As we finished, she looked at me thoughtfully. "You know, Mrs. Carter, you're not alone. So many people go through this, family turning on family over money, inheritance, property. It's heartbreaking, but it's not your fault." I nodded, tears pricking my eyes. "I just wish things were different. I wish Marcus could see that there's more to life than money." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Maybe he will one day. Sometimes people have to lose everything before they realize what really matters." After she left, I sat in the quiet house, her words echoing in my mind. I thought about my own life, about the choices I had made, the sacrifices, the joys and sorrows. I thought about my daughter, gone too soon, and the promise I had made to her to look after Marcus. I wondered if I had failed her, if I had failed him. That night I dreamed of the past, of family dinners filled with laughter, of Marcus as a little boy, his face sticky with jam, his eyes bright with wonder. I woke with tears on my cheeks, the ache of longing almost too much to bear. A week later Marcus returned. He came home late one evening, the sound of the front door startling me from my book. I found him in the kitchen, slumped at the table, his face drawn and tired. He looked up as I entered, shame flickering in his eyes. "Grandma," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm sorry." I stood in the doorway, unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to rush to him, to hold him, to forgive him. Another part of me wanted to demand answers, to make him explain how he could hurt me so deeply. He spoke first. "I messed up. I know I did. I didn't know what else to do. I was scared. I thought if I could just get ahead, everything would be okay." I sat across from him, my hands folded in my lap. "Marcus, you tried to take everything from me. You tried to have me declared incompetent. Do you understand how much that hurt?" He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I do. I really do. I was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. Finally I spoke. "I love you, Marcus. I always have. But love doesn't mean letting someone hurt you. I have to protect myself and my home." He nodded, wiping his eyes. "I understand. I don't know what to do now." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just the man he had become, but the frightened boy he still was. You start by making things right. Not with me but with yourself. You find a way to be the man your mother would have been proud of. He nodded, a spark of hope in his eyes. I'll try, Grandma. I promise. That night I lay awake, thinking about forgiveness, about second chances, about the line between love and self-preservation. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I had done what I could. I had protected my legacy, but I had also left the door open for Marcus to find his way back. The days that followed Marcus's return were tentative, like the first steps on a frozen pond. We moved around each other carefully, both of us unsure how to rebuild what had been broken. Marcus kept mostly to himself, spending long hours in his room or taking walks around the neighborhood. I gave him space, but I also made sure he knew I was there, leaving a plate of food outside his door, inviting him to join me in the garden, offering a gentle word when our paths crossed in the hallway. One afternoon, as I was pruning the rose bushes, Marcus appeared at my side. He stood there for a moment silent, then reached for the shears. Can I help? He asked, his voice uncertain. I handed him the shears, watching as he carefully trimmed a branch. You always liked the garden, I said softly. Remember when you planted those sunflowers by the fence? He smiled, a real smile this time, the kind I hadn't seen in years. I remember. They grew taller than me. You said they were reaching for the sun. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. They were. Just like you. We worked together in silence, the rhythm of the garden soothing us both. As the sun dipped low, Marcus turned to me. Grandma, I want to make things right. I know I can't undo what I did, but I want to try. I got a job at the hardware store. It's not much, but it's a start. Pride and relief mingled in my chest. That's wonderful, Marcus. I'm proud of you for taking responsibility. He looked down, his cheeks flushed. I want to pay you back. For the money I took, for everything. I shook my head gently. What matters most is that you're trying to change. Money can be replaced. Trust takes time. He nodded, determination in his eyes. I'll earn it back. I promise. As the weeks passed, Marcus kept his word. He worked hard at the hardware store, coming home tired but satisfied. He helped around the house, fixed things that had been broken for years, and even started volunteering at the local community center. I watched as he slowly rebuilt his life, one small act at a time. Our relationship was still fragile, but it was healing. We talked more, shared meals, and even laughed together. I told him stories about his mother, about the family he came from, about the values I hoped he would carry forward. He listened, really listened, and I saw the boy I had loved returning piece by piece. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the stars, Marcus turned to me. Grandma, why did you protect your inheritance so carefully? Did you always think I'd try to take it? I considered his question, choosing my words with care. I hoped I wouldn't have to, but I've seen what money can do to people. I wanted to make sure that what I leave behind goes to someone who understands its value, not just in dollars but in what it represents. Hard work, sacrifice, love. He nodded, thoughtful. I think I understand now. It's not about the money. It's about what you built. Exactly, I said, reaching for his hand. It's about family. About legacy. About making sure the things that matter most aren't lost. He squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you, Grandma, for not giving up on me. I smiled, my heart full. Everyone deserves a second chance, Marcus, even when it's hard. As the months passed, Marcus continued to grow. He saved his paychecks, paid back what he could, and even started taking classes at the community college. He made new friends, built a life for himself, and slowly, the shadows that had haunted him began to fade. I updated my will again, this time with a sense of hope. I included a letter from Marcus, explaining my decisions, my fears, and my love. I wanted him to know that forgiveness was possible, that redemption was real, and that the greatest inheritance I could leave was not money, but the lessons learned from a life well lived. One morning, as I sat in the garden, Marcus joined me with 2 cups of tea. He handed me one, then sat beside me, his gaze steady. I know I have a long way to go, Grandma, but I want you to know I'm grateful. For everything. For the chance to start over. I smiled, tears in my eyes. I'm grateful too, Marcus. For your courage. For your honesty. For coming home. We sat together in the quiet, the garden blooming around us, and I knew that, whatever happened next, we would face it together. Spring arrived with a gentle promise of renewal. The garden, once dormant, burst into color, daffodils, tulips, and the first shy buds on the old apple tree. I found myself waking each morning with a sense of hope I hadn't felt in years. Marcus's transformation was slow but steady, and with each passing day, the distance between us shrank a little more. He kept his job at the hardware store, earning the respect of his coworkers and even a small promotion. He started tutoring neighborhood kids in math, using the same sharp mind that once got him into trouble to help others find their way. I watched him with quiet pride, remembering the boy who used to build elaborate forts in the living room, who once declared he'd be an inventor or a scientist. Now he was inventing a new life for himself, one built on honesty and hard work. One Sunday afternoon, Marcus surprised me by inviting me to the community center's spring festival. He had helped organize the event, and as we walked through the bustling crowd, I saw him greet people by name, offer a helping hand, and laugh with genuine joy. It was as if the weight he'd carried for so long had finally begun to lift. At the festival, a local reporter approached us, asking if she could interview Marcus about his volunteer work. He hesitated, glancing at me for reassurance. I nodded and he agreed. As he spoke about his journey, about the mistakes he'd made and the lessons he'd learned, I saw the crowd listening intently. He didn't shy away from the truth he admitted to his past, but he focused on the future, on the importance of second chances and the power of community. After the interview, the reporter turned to me. "You must be very proud," she said. I smiled, my heart full. "I am. He's come a long way." That evening, as we walked home together, Marcus was quiet. Finally, he spoke. "I never thought I'd get here, Grandma. I never thought I'd be someone people looked up to." I squeezed his arm. "You earned it, Marcus. Every step." He nodded, a thoughtful look on his face. "I want to do more. I want to help people who are struggling like I was. Maybe start a scholarship fund, or a mentorship program." Tears pricked my eyes. "That's a wonderful idea. Your mother would be so proud." He smiled a little sadly. "I hope so. I think about her a lot. I wish she could see me now." "She does, Marcus. I believe she does." As the weeks passed, Marcus threw himself into his new mission. He worked with the community center to set up a mentorship program for at-risk youth, using his own story as a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope. He spoke at schools, sharing his experiences and encouraging others to make better choices. The boy who once tried to steal my inheritance was now giving back, building a legacy far greater than money. I updated my will one final time, leaving clear instructions for the distribution of my estate. Marcus would inherit the house and a portion of my savings, but the rest would go to the scholarship fund he had started. I included a letter, telling him how proud I was, how much I loved him, and how grateful I was for the chance to see him become the man I always knew he could be. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the fireflies dance, Marcus turned to me. "Grandma, do you ever regret giving me a second chance?" I shook my head, smiling. "Never. Everyone deserves a chance to change. You proved that." He looked at me, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." I reached over and took his hand. "That's what family does, Marcus. We hold on even when it's hard." As the stars appeared overhead, I felt a deep sense of peace. The pain of the past had not disappeared, but it had been transformed by forgiveness, by love, by the courage to start again. I knew that whatever the future held, Marcus would carry the lessons of our journey with him, building a life and a legacy worth far more than any inheritance. The years that followed were some of the most meaningful of my life. I watched Marcus grow into a man of integrity, someone who was not only respected in our community, but also deeply loved. The mentorship program he started flourished, helping dozens of young people find their footing and avoid the mistakes he once made. The scholarship fund grew, too, thanks to donations from neighbors, local businesses, and even a few former ments who wanted to give back. Our home became a gathering place again, filled with laughter, hope, and the kind of warmth I'd always dreamed of. Marcus and I developed a new rhythm, one built on trust and mutual respect. He still made mistakes, everyone does, but he faced them with honesty and a willingness to learn. He often sought my advice, not just about money or the house, but about life, love, and the challenges of growing older. I cherished those conversations, knowing that the bond we'd rebuilt was stronger than ever. One autumn afternoon, as golden leaves drifted across the yard, Marcus came home with a letter in his hand. He looked both nervous and excited. "Grandma, I got accepted into the university's social work program. They offered me a full scholarship because of the work I've done at the community center." I hugged him tightly, tears of joy streaming down my cheeks. "I'm so proud of you, Marcus. You've earned every bit of this." He grinned, his eyes shining. "I want to keep living here if that's okay. I'll commute to classes and keep working at the center. This house, it's home." "Of course, sweetheart. This will always be your home." As the seasons changed, so did our lives. Marcus balanced his studies with his work at the community center, and I found new ways to stay involved, volunteering, baking for fundraisers, and sharing my story with other seniors who feared losing their families to greed or misunderstanding. I became something of an unofficial advisor, helping others protect their legacies and encouraging them to believe in the possibility of reconciliation. One winter evening, as we decorated the house for the holidays, Marcus paused by the fireplace, where I kept a framed photo of his mother. He picked it up, his expression soft. "I wish she could see us now." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "She'd be so proud, Marcus. She always believed in you, even when things were hard." He nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. "I think about her every day. I want to make her proud. I want to make you proud, too." "You already have," I whispered, pulling him into a hug. The holidays were filled with joy, friends and neighbors stopping by. The house alive with music and laughter. Marcus organized a holiday dinner at the community center, making sure no one in our town spent the season alone. I watched him move through the crowd, offering a kind word here, a helping hand there, and I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The boy who once tried to take everything from me was now giving everything he had to others. As the new year dawned, I began to think more about the future. I was getting older, and though I still felt strong, I knew that my time was limited. I wanted to make sure that Marcus would be okay, that the legacy we'd built together would endure. I met with Mrs. Evans one last time, reviewing my will and making sure every detail was in place. I left instructions for Marcus, letters for friends and family, and a final note for the community center, encouraging them to keep the mentorship program alive. One spring morning, as the apple tree bloomed in the garden, I sat with Marcus on the porch, sipping tea and watching the world wake up. He turned to me, his expression serious. "Grandma, I want you to know something. I'll never forget what you did for me. You could have given up, but you didn't. You showed me what real love looks like." I smiled, my heart full. "Love isn't always easy, Marcus. Sometimes it means holding on when you want to let go. Sometimes it means forgiving even when it hurts. But it's always worth it." He nodded, taking my hand in his. "I promise to keep your legacy alive. I'll take care of this house, the garden, the program, everything. I'll make you proud." "I know you will, sweetheart. I have no doubt." As the days grew longer and the garden flourished, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I had lived a full life, one marked by both joy and sorrow, mistakes and triumphs. I had faced betrayal and heartbreak, but I had also witnessed the power of forgiveness and the beauty of second chances. My inheritance was never just about money or property. It was about the values I had tried to instill, the love I had given, and the hope I had for the future. When my time finally came, I left this world knowing that Marcus would carry on. Not just my name but my spirit. He would remember the lessons we learned together, the pain we endured, and the love that healed us both. And as he read the letter I left for him, I hoped he would understand that the greatest inheritance is not what you receive, but what you give. In the end, Marcus didn't just inherit a house or a sum of money. He inherited a legacy of resilience, compassion, and hope. He became the man his mother dreamed he would be, the grandson I always believed in, and the kind of person who could turn even the darkest chapter into a story of redemption. And that, I realized, was what truly mattered. Not the things we leave behind, but the lives we touch, the hearts we heal, and the love we share. My grandson tried to steal my inheritance, but what he didn't expect was that, in the end, he would find something far more valuable himself.